Hello, beautiful people. I'm Chris Maddox, founder of the Wild Woman Project and Wild Woman Fest. And I'm speaking to you today because we always meet like this at moon time. And this is a full moon time, October 1st, in the great transformative year of 2020. So, September 2020 to September 2021. Here at the Wild Woman Project, we are going to be exploring a great big question. If love is the most powerful force on earth, how do we actually wield it? When we're wielding love, wield as in an instrument, a tool, a weapon, what does that look like? What does it feel like? What does it ask of us? So we're starting this moon cycle of this year-long exploration by focusing on the way in which a person who is wielding love skillfully has the superpower of genuine listening. So we're focusing on listening and asking ourselves, how well are we listening? Listening, we genuinely are curious about the person in front of us and we listen to them, we can begin to understand them. When we begin to understand the person in front of us, we start to make a connection. And that connection between yourself and another human being is like fertile ground. It is full of possibility. And we humans, we long for connection. We are hardwired for connection. So to be able to skillfully listen is to be able to, for yourself and for whomever you're listening to sort of feed that hunger of connection. And once you do that, it opens up so much. It opens up so much, whether you agree or disagree with the person in front of you, that connection, that human to human connection, that's love. And we can begin to sort of make pathways in the space between us when we really, really listen. So the first question then becomes like, what gets in the way of listening? So you can ask that to yourself, what gets in the way of listening for me? One of the things that I think we are all sort of sharing in is a bit of an atrophy in our ability to focus and direct our attention because of the way in which we live in an attention economy. There are forces vying for our attention constantly, and they're doing it incredibly well. And our ability to focus is beginning to atrophy. So that's one of the ways we can start to think about listening, is to go, okay, in what way is my attention fragmented right now? And how can I hone in and really focus? That might require us in any moment to like turn off our cell phone or to kind of slow it down a little bit. Breathe, really try to focus on the person's words, their tone, their gestures, their facial expressions, so that we're able to really pay attention. There is the thing that often gets in the way is when we are preoccupied while someone's talking to us. We are preoccupied with what we are going to say next, which has the effect of a kind of brick wall. Like nothing is getting in if you are not receiving, like if If we're in a conversation, we're playing tennis or we're playing ping pong, we're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. If you do not receive the ball, you can't hit it back, you know? If you just have two players just like swatting back at each other like this, there's no volley, there's no dance, there is no connection. So watching that tendency to be in our own heads, not listening to the person in front of us, prepping what we're about to say. One of the other things that I think frequently gets in the way of listening is when we make assumptions about the person in front of us. So we go, yeah, 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 yeah. I know. I know what you're going to say. I know who you are. I know the kind of person that you are. And so I'm making all these assumptions. Again, that's slamming a door. That is closing the space versus opening the space between you. There is the tendency of interrupting, which is really frequent, interrupting, cutting in, not really allowing there to be space. I notice I'm like talking a lot about spaciousness. And I think in a conversation and in communication, that's like a kind of a cool thing to think about is the idea is how can we let space into this room? So we're not hammering away, we're not making a bunch of racket and a bunch of noise, but there's speech and then there's thought and integration, and then there's speech and there's thought and there's integration. And in that, there might be silence, and there certainly will be a space on the airwaves. So we can watch our tendency to rush it, to make it go faster. Sometimes it can be so uncomfortable, particularly, if we know that we disagree with someone on something. And in the particularly divisive times in which we're living, this is coming up a lot. It's coming up a lot. It's almost like we get the feeling when someone's standing in front of us and we think, oh gosh, we're not aligned. We don't think about things in the same way. That to listen to that person speak their truth, their opinion, their feelings, like is almost unbearable. But if we block ourselves off from that, if we shut down the communication by interrupting, by pre-planning what we're about to say, by making assumptions, etc., there is absolutely no opportunity for there to be connection and maybe a shift or a change in thinking. That's that's one of the great gifts of being human and being able to verbally exchange complex ideas, is the idea that when we do that, we can actually grow by interfacing with another person's framework, how they're thinking about things. Like that is a huge gift. And if we shut it all down and we just build walls in the space between us, there is no opportunity for connection. There is no opportunity for growth. And there's no availability in that flow of love. That is a possibility when we actually understand and we actually connect. I think that there is a big one. I'm sure no one's going to think this resonates at all, but a lot of us have a need to be right. We're very attached to being right. I know none of us could ever relate to such a thing. But there's that great saying, you can be right or you can be married. And a lot of times we get the best practice of literally anything we want to practice with those we love best and those that we are sharing space with most often. And when there is a need to be right, and the need to be right is it overrides the need to understand and connect, there is breakdown. There is just like unresolvable conflict. So if we can all be brave And I think it is honestly a resting of one's ego to say, I'm going to actually consciously set down the need to be right. And instead, I'm going to deeply, deeply aim to understand the person in front of me and make a connection. And once that connection is made, communicate from that place. I mean, that's profound work. And in some ways, that is moving from an ego oriented way of being with other people to a more heart centered way of being with other people. So, what's the antidote? We sort of touched on little things here and there, but I think, you know, we have to really like sit with ourselves, I think, and see if we can talk ourselves into or remember and find the value, the desire uh, to make a genuine connection. We have to remember, like, what's the point of all of this? What's the point of talking to anyone about anything? Why are we doing it? And, I think underneath it all, that way in which we are hardwired for connection, like that's the aim. And Brene Brown talks about this in her work all the time. And I highly recommend you literally picking up any of her books or talks or anything, because she has some great research to back this up. Like, we are hardwired for connection. So I think, there is some inner work to be done for each and every one of us to go, like, what is the point of discourse anyway? What's the point of talking to our partner or talking to our neighbor or communicating with people in the digital format in any form? Like, what is the aim? And if we're really talking about wielding love and becoming a powerful force and learning how to let love stream through us, one of the things that love knows is that we are all connected. Love helps us to remember that in the moment. And when we remember that in the moment, when the person's standing in front of us and we feel the love, the genuine love we have for a fellow human being, there's nothing more precious than that and powerful. I think, once you remember the value of connecting, making a genuine connection, then there's the conscious cultivation of curiosity. That's one of the things, that makes a great conversationalist is, being genuinely curious about the person. Who is this person? How are they thinking about things? What do they care about? What's dear to them? What are they afraid of? Really try to understand them. And one of the ways you can understand them is by asking good questions. So when you listen, you hear little details and you can say, oh, will you tell me more about that? That's interesting. Will you say more about X, Y, and Z? And I think in the moment, one of the things that can really help us with this is slowing down. Slowing down. This is like the cry of the earth, the cry, I think, of the feminine. Um, the cry of in our souls is like, for the love of all things beautiful. Slow down. Why are you in a rush? And we have become so hurried. There's a lot of factors to that, but I think we can all agree things go so fast and people are rushing. And we can even be rushing internally, getting to the next thought, getting to the next point, getting to the next conversation, getting to the next, getting out of this conversation, whatever it is. If you can, in the moment, if we can, in the moment, I think breath really helps with this. Kind of slow down the breath and try to slow down your thinking. Even slow down your speech. Like, don't be in a rush to respond right away. Hang on. Take it in first. Take it in first. So slowing down, I think, can really, really help in a lot of ways, and it can be a great de-escalator in conflict. So, those of us who are wild women, that is, who are drawn to the wild feminine and who are in relationship to the wild woman archetype, we really relate. One of the ways that we understand ourselves and the world around us is through the elements. And there are many different systems for elements, but the most simple is the elements of fire, earth, air, and water. So I think with listening, it's like love in the key of earth. Like, be the ground. Earth is not, it doesn't, it's not, if it does move, it doesn't move quickly, So if you can stay grounded in a conversation, if you can really think of that idea of love in the key of the earth element, it's a stabilizer in any conversation. And I think people naturally respond when you have that sense of groundedness. There's kind of like a safety, like, this isn't going to get too hot, this isn't going to go off the rails, but this is like a slow and steady kind of thing. What you'll get out of a conversation is something that's coming from a calmer space. And that's really helpful when you're really trying to understand and connect. So I encourage you for the rest of this moon cycle. So it's October 1st is the full moon. So we have the whole waning phase, which is a couple of weeks till October 15th. That's the last day of the moon cycle, to really ask yourself, how can I listen better? And it's sort of fun to think of the fact that the moon, from full moon to new moon, is waning. So every single night there's less and less. So at full moon time, it can be kind of fun and feel also in alignment with this beautiful part of the natural world, which is the moon, to think of, what do you want to wane in you? So you can think of like dropping things. Like, what do I want to drop that would make me a better listener? Could lay down the need to be right. Can lay down the tendency to interrupt. Can set down the habit of formulating what you're going to say next while someone else is talking. You can lay down, being in a rush, and so on and so forth. So really, you can ask yourself, like, what habit can I lay down, or just like practice laying down for just 2 weeks, just the rest of this moon cycle, that will make me a more skillful listener. So this idea of listening is huge with our work here at the Wild Woman Project. And in women's circles, one of the profound gifts and the kind of like accidental skills that you cultivate in that environment is, listening, and really listening on all levels, and listening to one another, and listening deeply to your own inner guidance, listening to the natural world, listening to the subtleties, witnessing others and being witness is extremely powerful. So, we're going to go deeper with all of this work on listening, probably for all of our days at the Wild Woman Project, but it'll be a particular line of focus and a couple of things that are coming up. So, number one, we have fall circle leader training coming. It starts on November 2nd. It is one part uh, personal cultivation and one part skill building in the way of the wild woman. So you're going to not only learn and grow personally, but you're also going to gain skills like how to lead a meditation, how to make a ritual, how to embody vulnerability in your leadership. So that's a 7-week journey, 100% online. There are scholarships available for those who need. And yeah, if you want to know more about it, I'll put a link below this video. And if it pulls at your heartstrings, I hope you'll join us. The second thing that's coming up on October 8th, we have Wild Woman School, which is our monthly community ritual. There's music, there is meditation, there's usually breath practice, and our theme for this particular session is waking love's power. So we're really going to, through our ritual, kind of wake up, begin the process of tapping into this enormous, you know, powerful force that is love. And we will have a lot of it focused on cultivating listening in honor of our theme of this moon cycle. So we'll go like a lot deeper. We'll kind of explore it in an experiential way. So that's 90 minutes. It's all online. You can join live or sign up and you receive the recording within 24 hours. It's choose your own price. Scholarships available for those in need. So don't be shy. Don't be afraid to ask for one if you are in that scenario. We'd love to have you. So listening is your superpower. May you cultivate it, because as we expand our capacity to listen, we expand our capacity to understand. And as we expand our capacity to understand, we expand our capacity to connect. And once we connect, we are in the stream of love. So wield it and wield it well. Love you. Thank you for listening. See you at the new moon.